All right, stat students. So I'm in a little bit different environment right now. I didn't get a chance to actually make this at home, so we're trying my at school setup for this. As you can tell, there's like ambient noise around me. I don't really care for it too much, but I'm gonna make lemonade out of these lemons. And what we're gonna be talking about today is the next section of the categorical data. So go ahead in your notes, you're going to be writing this. We have comparing two categorical variables. You are going to need your Inspire for this, and you need to have already had those files that we had to download on there uploaded to it. The last video was about categorical data and just making a bar chart or a pie chart. We did that with hair color, all right? But most of the interesting statistics that can occur happens when you have two categorical variables. And that's when we're able to make like claims and show association, like smoking caused cancer. We have the variable, do they smoke or not? That's one. And then, did they get lung cancer or not? That's two. So that's what we're going to be talking about now. We're going to ask this question. So here's our example. Is a particular gender more likely to have a job? So that's our question that we're going to be using as our example today. And we're going to be using the data that we gathered from our survey, okay? So I need everybody to go to their TI Inspire. So I've got mine on the screen now. You need to go home, you need to go to My Documents, and you need to find the file that's called, and I'll pull this up. Let me go back to the desktop. So you have these three files that should be on there. You need to find the beginning of the year survey on there. So on your calculator, mine won't show it. So let me go back to my monitor here. This is my setup. So over here on my calculator. So when you go to My Documents, number 2. Oops. So on My Documents, you hit that. You need to find the beginning of the year data. So I'm going to actually go here. You should have this now. Because this is going on YouTube, I got rid of the last names. So you'll find your name in this list here if you did end up filling in that beginning survey. I only had 32 that did it. So there should be 32 names in here. Some of you are distant, some of you are face-to-face. All right. Now what we're interested in is this. Gender and job. That's what we want to know. Okay. So I'm going to put this down for just a second. And we're going to talk about how we're able to sort of sort this and how we want to display it. So first off, we need to be able to like count the gender and also count the number of jobs and put those in some sort of display, which we're going to talk about in a second, okay? So what I'd like you to do, and you can follow along on the left side of the screen, you'll see that way, okay? You'll see the arrow keys that I'm pushing as I go left and right. I want you to go all the way up and highlight the entire thing. So if you keep pressing up, eventually it's going to highlight that column. I think we did this with the hair color. So you're going to press Menu, Data, and we're going to, it's Actions, and we're going to sort. And we're going to do that ascending. Okay, so go ahead and do that. And now we have all the females together and all the males. Now let's look at a problem that occurs when we do this. I want you to go back over here, okay? And maybe you see the problem. Haley's okay, because yeah, she's a female. But now we have Carter, who's listed as a female as well. These are all fine, but then Wesley's a female. And Elijah, CJ, Henry, all of these students, George, these are males that are now labeled as females. So what do we need to do to fix this? Well, first off, let's undo what we just did. So hit Control, Escape, and it undoes it, so everybody's back where they need to be. So what we have here is an issue with, we need to be able to sort this and move everybody with their correct data. Now we have quite a bit of data here, all the way to math rating. So this is how we need to do this. So everybody needs to go up to their first cell here. And then we are going to look at the button I'm about to highlight, Shift, right there, okay? You need to press and hold that down. Don't let go. And then you're going to start going to the right. Okay, and it's going to start highlighting. Now, I would be holding it down, but I got to press it again on my computer emulator. And we go to the right. And it's going to start highlighting. Now, I can do this with my keyboard, and I'm going to get all of it. Okay? So there we go. We have all of it highlighted. Now, go ahead and press Menu, Actions, Sort. And we have to pick which row we want. Now, which row was the gender? Well, A, B, C. It was C. So we're going to go down and select C, and we want ascending. So I'm going to hit OK. Let's go back over to it. Okay, so now we have Madison here instead of Carter. Female, all of these are going to be correct as we go through our list here. They're all matched up, and then Carter's going to be the first male. So we have that, and they're in here. Perfect. And all of your data should match up. So if you find your name, all of this should be the same. For instance, Haley, favorite subject is math, even though she rated it for a 3, not a 5. Interesting. So you must not like school. Anyway, no, that's funny. But you can find your data, it follows along with it. Okay? So now we are interested in only comparing these. So we're interested in the counts. All right? So I'm going to go to my other slide here. We're going to talk about how we want to display this. Let me get my Moby back out here. And let's do some more writing. We want to be able to display this in what's called a two-way table. So we're going to write down the definition for two-way table. Let me pull that up. So a two-way table describes two categorical variables organizing counts according to a row variable and a column variable. So I'm going to pause and let you write that. Again, I'm going to put the screenshot of that definition up for you, but go ahead and get that written. Okay, so you got that written. So we need to decide on a row variable and a column variable. And we need to make something that looks like what this example is showing. So let's go back to our whiteboard here. We have our definition there. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and we're going to create a two-way table. Very simple. This is how we start. Oh my goodness, can't draw a straight line. There we go. Okay, so here's our row variable and our column variable. You just get to pick. Oh, there's the bell. Okay, so you get to pick. So first off, we want, I'm just going to make this one gender. So I'm going to do male, draw a line straight across, and I'm going to do female. Okay, then up here, so we're going to put that variable over here. This is gender. And this is going to be job. If they have a job or not. Okay? So this is a yes or a no. Okay. So now what we want to do, I need to zoom out a little bit on here just to make sure I got plenty of space. We need to also add a column and a row that represents the total. Always with these. All right, so we have our column for the total, and we want to start filling this in. So we're going to be using our spreadsheet to do this. So let's go back over to my Inspire, and what I'd like you to do is we need to use this data. So let me show you something else really cool that we want to do with this and make this a little bit easier for you. I want to take the data that is in these columns, and I just want to use it. I don't want to disturb the rest of the data. I just want to use this. So let's talk about what I want you to do here. I want you to go to this first female cell here. Remember how we held shift? So look on my keyboard over here, that red button. Press and hold that, and then start going and selecting as you're holding, we want to go, so starting up that first female, go over to the right, we have the no. You're going to scroll all the way down to the last part. Okay, so we have 32 people, by the way. We need to keep that number in mind. So 32. Now that we've got all that highlighted, you're going to press these buttons. This is just like a computer. If you didn't know this for a computer, here's the trick. You're going to hit Control C. What that does is it copies what you just selected. All right, so we have that copied. What we want to do now, and again, rewind this if you need to rewatch some of this. Okay, so do that if you have to. Now we want to make a new page on this calculator. Okay, just like, see how at the top it has this tab? That's sort of like a website, how you can have multiple tabs on there. Let's make another one. This is how you do it. You're going to hit Control and Doc. You'll see how it says plus page above that. So Control Doc. And what we want is another list in spreadsheets. You're going to select that one. All right, so now you should have that data copied from this one, okay? And you just like a page, you can touch the pad over here and move the mouse around if you need to, sort of like I have. But this little touch pad right here is what you're using. You can click in the center and go between them. But I want you to go to this first cell here. Don't click it. It needs to just be highlighted. So make sure that if you have this, it's not going to work. So you're just going highlight over that first cell. Then you're going to hit Control and then V. It did not work. So try this again. So I'm going to hit Control C, go over, Control V. There it is. So it pastes. And if I go over here again, I can just repaste it, Control V, and it does it again, or how many ever times I want. That's not necessarily what we want, so I'm going to undo that, Control Escape. And this is what I have here, okay? So what I'd like you to do on your calculator, make sure that you label these. I'm going to call this G for gender and J for job. We don't want to name it like the same thing it was on the other page, just so that we can manipulate it if we need to. All right, I'm going to pause it. I would like you to see if you can create in your notes. So we'll go back to this. I want you to try to sort this sheet here on your own, all these little items here, and get the counts that are going to go into this table. Okay, so I'm going to pause it and let you do that. See if you can get it. Okay. Oh gosh, I dropped it. All right, so now let's go ahead and fill this in. Let's see if you got it correct. So you should have gotten 10 males with jobs, 14 total males, so 4 had no jobs. 32 total students. There are 18 total females that you should have counted. 6 females that said no, 12 that said yes, 22 and 10 for the yes job, no job. Okay, 22 and 10. So that's how you fill in a two-way table. So those are extremely important graphs that are going to be used a lot, not just in this unit, but in the probability unit. Two-way tables are going to make their way back. Okay, so the question now is, does looking at this answer this? Is a particular gender more likely to have a job? So let's check it out. Well, 10 males out of 14 have jobs, 12 females out of 18 have jobs. Not really anything that I can just look at this and just say, okay, yeah, I can tell it looks like more males have jobs or more females have jobs. We need another way to display this, is sort of what I'm getting at here. We need another way to discuss these two-way tables and comparing variables. So we have another definition that we're going to write down. We need to actually convert this into what's called a marginal distribution. We're going to look at this a different way. Now, maybe this will help us, maybe not, to answer our question, but we need to learn it. So that's really the main purpose of this. Marginal distribution. I do not like the definition for it, but I'm going to make you write it just because you need to write it. So the marginal distribution is what I have highlighted in yellow. Okay, so I'm going to read this, and you'll be like, in English, please. That's what's going to happen. So I'm just going to simplify it after I read it. So it says, the marginal distribution of one of the categorical variables, so gender or job, okay, one of the categorical variables in a two-way table of counts is the distribution of values of that variable among all individuals described by the table. Whoosh. Kind of complex there. Let's just go ahead and highlight actually what it means. I'm going to pause and let you write it. And then we have this here. Percents are often more informative than counts. We're going to talk about the percents as we continue. But so go ahead and write this. All right, so you should have that copied. Let's get back to this whiteboard here. Let me describe this in a simpler way. So we talk about the margins. Like if I hold up a sheet of paper, the margins are on the outside, right? And that's what you need to keep in mind when you think marginal distribution. The margins of a two-way table. All right, so what does that mean? Let's go over here. We have our two-way table. So we have the margins. That would be the totals, really. So I'm going to go back over there and write it that way. The totals of each variable. Sort of a much more simplified way of writing it, but obviously we need to have like that textbook definition, like the statistical, smart-sounding definition to put in here, okay? So let's go ahead and let's talk about this. I want ink to shape. Let's do that because I'm going to draw some. Hopefully it does this. So one of the margins would be here. Oh my goodness, that did not do exactly how I wanted. Let's try again. All right, it's probably not happening. That would be one margin. This would be the marginal distribution of gender, as it's a rainbow color. How about that? Then this one, let me do it in red just so it's very different. This is the marginal distribution of, that's not too bad. This is the marginal distribution of jobs, job status. So we're going to take all of those and we're going to just sort of transfer them into their own tables over here. So we're going to put, I'll start with gender. So we're going to say gender. And we want frequency. So this is essentially just a frequency table. So we have gender, we have males, females, and then we have the total. So we had, how many of each? We had 14 males and 18 females, totaling to 32. Now, we wrote in our notes that percents are often more informative because even now, like looking at these, obviously there's more males than females than males. We would rather see it in a percent because it's easier for us to make that comparison. So we have a name for this, and I believe we wrote down frequency tables, and then we had relative frequency tables. So relative frequency. And I'm not going to really need this much space, but we're going to go for it. So there are 14 males out of the 32 students, right? We need to turn that into a decimal. So I'll pull up my handy dandy calculator. 32. By the way, let me just show you how you would do this on an Inspire. You can pull up, hitting that red button there pulls up your own little scratch pad, they call it. So let's do 14 divided by 32. Now watch what happens when I hit enter. It just gives me a fraction. So let's talk about how you can make this an actual decimal. So go back up and you can highlight what you originally put, hit enter to copy it, and then you can go back and edit. If you just add a decimal to one of these and hit enter, it works, okay? So we get 0.4375. Let me talk about how I would like rounding done in this class, like the general rule for it. 4 places is what I like, okay? If it had more, we would round up to that 4th place. There are instances where we're only using 2 places, but for most like percents and probabilities, I want 4, okay? So we could put 0.4375, and then we want to put that as a percent. So the percent will be How do we get a percent? Well, you're just moving that decimal twice to the right. So it's 43.75. We're going to be making so many percents in this class. You should have that technique down like pat. It should not be a problem. All right, so then 18 out of 32. Let's go ahead and get our decimal. All right, 0.5625, which is going to equal 56.25%. Perfect. And then we divide this one, which obviously we're going to know that this is going to equal 1. The reason I want to put that even is because 1 is going to be a very important number for this class when we talk about like percents and decimals. 1 is 100%, and it represents that in this class, and it's so important that we remember that. So 1 is 100%. Super important idea. All right, that's the marginal distribution of the two-way table. Now, that's only for gender, though, so now we got to do job. I'm going to make this one go a little bit quicker. So job, you have the yes or the no. You have the total. Okay, and then we have the frequency. I'm going to abbreviate. So frequency, how many had a job? That was 10. No, I have that wrong. 22 have a job. This is that bottom distribution. 10 did not have a job, totaling to 32. We want the relative frequency, so I'll write it like this. And we're going to go ahead and we'll do 22 divided by 32, which is actually, we get 0.6875 when we do that. And then we want the percent is 68.75%. Then here we're going to do 10 out of 32, which is 0.3125, 31.25%. And then of course this is just going to be 100%, so I'm just going to write that in there. All right, cool. So we have our distributions. Let's zoom out a little bit and take a look at them. Okay, we have these distributions. Look at these percents. Do they help us answer, I've gone pretty far. Do they help us answer our original question? Is a particular gender more likely to have a job? So we go over to it. This doesn't really tell us that, unfortunately. So marginal distributions don't do a very good job of comparing the variables, but it just shows you the individual distribution. So for instance, here we just have the breakdown of gender. It's pretty close to 50-50. Only 32 students out of my total like 40 something replied, so maybe the rest of the guys just didn't reply or do this survey, okay? Then we look over here, and this is pretty large difference. For my stats class, it looks like more people have a job than not. So if I were going to use this, I could say, well, it looks like stat students are more likely to have jobs. Now, is that the association that I could gather from this? No. What's confounding that? Well, you're seniors, so it is more likely you have a job because you're older. If I did this with a freshman class, I would expect almost none of them to have jobs, so it'd be like 0% yes and 100% no. I'd be very surprised to see if any of them had a job. So this doesn't really tell us anything about the question we have up here that's in red. So in order to answer that question, we have one more type of graph that we're going to be looking at, and this will be the last part of this video. We're about 25 minutes in here. We've got probably another 10 minutes, 15 minutes to go with this, so thanks for bearing with me. But we need to talk about what's called a conditional distribution. So conditional distribution is what is going to help us with showing this association that we want. Does a particular gender seem to be more likely to have a job? So here we go. Conditional distribution describes the values of that variable, the condition, which we're going to talk about, among individuals who have a specific value of another variable. So I'll pause and let you write that definition. All right, so conditional distribution. So the first thing we want to do, we're going to really make a similar chart to what we had before with the marginal, except we're more or less saying, here's our condition. Okay, do we want the condition to be gender or do we want it to be job status? Well, which one is more important to us? Do we want to compare the different genders within and say percent that had a job and percent that did not? It's kind of difficult to think about. How I'm going to do it is we're going to focus on the differences between males with and without jobs and then females with and without jobs. So our condition here is that they are male, so it's gender, and then they have a job or they have no job. So we're going to have, so this is going to be our total again. So this is total males. So we're going to have our frequencies here. So how many of them have a job? How many, and we're again, the males, how many of them have jobs? And we look at our chart, there's 10 that have jobs. Without jobs, that's 4. So the total males is 14. Now we want to turn that into a relative frequency. And it's going to be 10 out of 14. The percent that I have for that, and I'm just going to go ahead and write it, is 71.43%. And then 4 out of 14 is 28.57%. And then, of course, this would be 100%. Okay, so there's that one. We've done that conditional distribution. Now let's do the females. So condition, let's say female. We have job and no job. And then our total females. So frequency goes first. So how many females have a job? Well, 12 in our chart have jobs. And then no job was 6. So total females is 18. We're going to write relative frequency. And that's going to be 12 out of 18, which is 0. I'm going to write the decimal this time, 667. You'll round that one up, which is 0. It is 66.67%. Then we do 6 out of 18, which is 0.3333. It's repeating, but we're just going to go to 4 places, which is 33.33%. And then we know that this is 100% here. Okay. Now, and I've zoomed out quite a bit. I hope I can zoom out further. So now we're going to compare these numbers. This is actually going to tell us what we want. This is going to say, is one gender more likely to have a job than the other, because we've broken it down within these conditions. So we compare these numbers. 71.43% of males have jobs. 66.67% females have jobs. So do males seem to be more likely to have jobs is what the question is. Over here to the right, we're going to write this, or down below. I don't want red, I want blue. So is this statistically significant? Remember our definition for statistical significance. It is this effect, this difference between the 66.67% and the 71.43%, is it so large that it couldn't happen by just chance alone? And you, when we did the Mythbusters, remember their percents were 29% and 25%, and they said it was significant. So right now we don't really have the tools to make this call. We can just sort of give it our gut feeling. For me, I don't think so. It doesn't seem that significant. We had 32 people. Mythbusters only had 50. So it's really, right now it's up to you whether you feel like it is significant or not, if that difference is large enough, okay? Does being a male make you more likely to have a job? You could say yes because of the differences, or no because it's not a big difference. The big part of this, and especially for my AP students, is you need to be able to argue why you think that, okay? You can also talk, like if you say no, it's not significant, you can talk about bias in the study if you want, or just say the percent is not too large in your opinion, but you have to be able to explain it, okay? You need to be able to explain it in words why, okay? Because that is what's going to make you correct, is being able to defend what you say. We're several chapters away, but in chapter 9 we will have methods for actually getting like a clear-cut answer for like the method for how we can say, okay, it is significant or it's not. But we're ways away from that. For now, you can just decide what you think it is. All right. So we have, and I'm not really able to draw this here because I don't have the right tool, but displaying the data. So this is our last section of this video. So displaying, I need to zoom in because I'm going to get too far. Okay. So your notes, we're going to say displaying comparisons of two categorical variables. So there's two types of graphs that we can use. We can use what's called a side-by-side bar chart, or we can use a segmented bar chart. Got dark, hold on. There we go. Okay. The segmented bar graph is quite complicated, and we're not going to like make one of those. But there is an example in our notes of what these look like. So the segmented bar graph looks like this over here, which my camera's in the way. Let me move it up. So here's what the segmented bar graph looks like right here, where it takes the conditional distribution, so calculate conditional distribution, and it puts them into percents. So this example, we would say job, and we'd have male versus females. Actually, this one would be better to do males with and without jobs and do a comparison like that. Or you can do a side-by-side bar graph, which there's no example in here for that. I'm going to draw just a rough sketch, and this will be the last thing that I do for this. I'm just going to draw a very rough sketch of this data over here. So, not that one. We want, oh yeah, that is it. So I'm going to draw this bar chart up here. And again, this is going to be a very kind of rough graph. So I need an x-axis, so I'll draw that here. Let me turn this 90 degrees. There we go. Let me draw this up. Again, this is going to be kind of a rough looking graph. But if I wanted to graph this, I would say job, no job. And this would be the job status. And then again, I don't have like the ruler tools. I don't like this tool at all, this little ruler here, to do this. If I was at home on my other app, I would be fine to do that. But we're going to put up our scale that we need. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I would want to label this as percents or relative frequency. 10, 30, 50, 70. And then I'm just going to start drawing the bars, and I can color coordinate them if I want, but I know that males are going to be 71 right there. So this is just my rough sketch. Females are going to be, I'll do green for them. So this is 66.6%. So I go up, down. Again, this is not looking, that's okay. It's not bad. Males without a job, we have 28.757, and then females are 33.3 repeating, so about right here. And this is what we're looking at. Like if you wanted to display this, you'd put male, male, female, female. Then you might even want to write the percents on the graphs themselves, but this is what we're looking at. Like say you wanted to show association or significance, you would be finding that in the difference between these columns, which this is why I would say this is not significant, just because looking at it, it doesn't look that different. But this would be how you would display this graph. And I think on your homework assignment that's due, you have to create some of these. So that's why I wanted to at least include a picture of what a side-by-side bar graph would look like. And you needed this lesson to be able to complete all that. Marginal distribution, conditional distributions, two-way tables, we have all that now. So we're going to go